Asaf and Chris. Hello, people of the world.
Hello, everybody.
Yes,
Hey,
welcome back, wherever you are. We are here in the great transition. The world is changing a lot. And we are here going through, looking at what's going on in the world with our feet on the ground. Each day we've been through the global pandemic, maybe an upcoming food crisis. What else is happening? There's a war going on, and at the same time, as students of the wisdom of Kabbalah, we're flipping the embroidery over and looking at what all of these connections are, and giving some insight that we received from our teacher and from studying this wisdom about what is going on in the world from a bigger picture. So, welcome everybody, and good to
Welcome.
good
be
to
with you
have you.
guys. All right.
Yes, welcome to the spaceship.
So I woke
Said
up
Hopefully.
that in a while.
yesterday. I woke up yesterday with a pretty good headache. I wasn't sure if I don't know if I didn't hydrate enough or if I slept on the pillow wrong or something.
Well,
But
when
I
you
had
say good headache, is it
like
good
a
for
like a
you or good for the
it,
headache?
it wasn't good for me, but it was like it
Okay.
was a good quality headache. So I didn't have time to do a nice foot massage or press all the points and stuff. I had a lot of important things to do during the day, so I took some ibuprofen and I went on with my day. Uh, the body is such a system that you can do things like that. So you can also take an anesthesia and some strong pain medicine and walk through a fire or chop off your foot and not even notice. So imagine that's in the physical body. Imagine also that wouldn't be good, by the way. It's good that we're getting these signals. Imagine a person is living an insufferable existence. They hate the work. They're in a bad situation with their relationships, and they take some antidepressant medicine so they can tolerate the situation. But the signals of life are trying to get them to change. But through those medicines, they're able to kind of carry on. And even
Yeah.
more today, kids that are born are so full of energy, so full of imagination, so full of possibilities. And parents and teachers, a lot of times, don't have the patience, the energy, the emotional wherewithal to manage that. So there's a phenomenon now of a lot of children being drugged with all kinds of attention
All
deficit.
right. Ritalin and the like.
Right. So you have a
Yeah.
child who may, if you were able to spend time with them, maybe they just want to run around. Maybe they want to play outside. Maybe they have ideas, but we don't have time. We need to go to work.
Mhm.
And also, I've got a classroom full of 20 kids, and this kid just
Right.
wants to go
Right.
outside. This child, for some reason, does not want to sit in a chair for 8
All of a sudden,
hours
that's
and
a
Right.
problem.
read.
Yeah.
Right.
Did you see you're familiar with that research? It's quite uh, known right now. But it's a couple of years old, where they show that the creativity levels of a child, they go down exponentially as together with them going into the school system, the public education
I
system.
think actually a
Oh,
year
yeah.
ago we talked about that. NASA did some kind of
Mm.
some study on that
Right.
people
NASA
had
No,
would be
the
interested. Hey, don't
data.
mess up
were
our
stupid.
don't mess up our potential employees, future employees. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, so we learn in the wisdom of Kabbalah about the structure of reality, that it develops according to 4 degrees: inanimate, the inanimate degree, minerals, the building blocks; vegetation, vegetative; animate, the animal kingdom; and then speaking. That's our degree. The prior 3 degrees don't have any choice, no freedom of choice. So, for example, atoms, molecules. You take an H2O molecule and you heat it up to boiling point. Was it 100 degrees Celsius, right?
yeah.
Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
it turns to steam. There's no negotiation there.
Mm-hmm.
All of the other degrees, a cow, when he feels hunger inside, he's like, well, if I eat more grass, are those genes going to fit me later? Or he doesn't have that freedom. All of
Mm-hmm.
those first 3 degrees, inanimate, vegetative, and animal, all follow very, very strict laws of nature. So on the speaking degree, with our minds, it's much more complicated. We get signals, and we have the ability to we don't have to respond to them, and we have ways to manage them. Now, even more than that, so right, we talked about our body and our mind, but now also we are this social creature. So there's no other
Yes.
creature that built. There are creatures that build networks of. We did a whole thing on the mycelium underground, all the networks of the mycelium, right? And also we've showed here how birds move together. There are many incredible things that happen on those prior 3 degrees, but humans set up towns, factories, technology. There's all of this that we can do. School systems. So what happens from our culture, from our school systems, is that we can actually teach a person or a group of people that killing is good. You know, like if we need to go kill an enemy, we
Right.
can raise a generation who might not be inclined or feel that I want to kill someone or go kill a lot of people, that going to kill is good. And there's all other phenomenon now, like you may see, Asaf, you can just mute me if you think this is inappropriate, but you can see, or too politically charged, but you may see, for
Okay.
example, male genitalia and say that seems like a male to me, but society can tell you it's a woman. Now, there's
Mm-hmm.
things like that happening. Not to talk about the
I,
politics of it
I
at
won't
all.
mute you, but maybe we should throw in a disclaimer there that of course there are people who feel, on the inside that, based on how their neurology and biology is built and all that, that they don't feel comfortable in their body. There is, of course, such a thing. But you're talking about the social
Yeah, I'm not
perception
definitely.
mechanism.
I'm not talking. There's
Mhm.
no kind of judgment about any of this or no
Yeah.
political position about it. It's just that we're living now in a world where we get a certain message, but society is so strong that it can change the message of things that I naturally feel.
Yes.
Okay, so that's something super interesting for us. Suffering, pain, feelings don't let us stay indifferent. In fact, that's really what moves us. A person
Yeah.
who, okay, so I want to know, why am I alive? What is going on? What is this all about? But I also have the ability to just scroll all day and
Yeah.
not and just hit my dopamine. What is it? It's
Yeah.
dopamine, right? And just hit my dopamine
Mm-hmm.
centers like bam, 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 right? Or I have the ability to just bury those questions and feelings because I just don't have time to deal with them.
Yeah.
So nature is giving us all of the messages that we need in order to make this transition into the new kind of humanity that we need to move into. This system developed from inanimate to vegetative to the animate degree to our speaking degree. There's a lot of intelligence in this system of nature that integrates all of the stars and the planets, all the constellations, every blade of grass, all the seasons. Everything is working in harmony, and we have the ability now to participate with that and use these powerful minds, which are way more powerful than our physical development. With one, you could have a factory in China with 10,000 people pressing out shirts all day, or we can make a machine that just presses out 10,000 shirts in a minute,
And we will
and
soon.
we will. And also, we're going to talk about semiconductors today, which is totally fascinating and really interesting how it relates to all of this as well. What we're seeing, in front of
Mhm.
our eyes, and how we can um,
I
get.
I I know we kind of discussed it maybe last week or the week before, last week I think, but this what came to my mind is just this situation with Will Smith again. That
It's hard to get it out
because
of
you
your mind, honestly.
it's
It's everywhere
yeah, I mean,
still.
first of all the algorithms are pushing that, and mainstream media is basically cannibalizing that story. Everyone's
Right.
trying to make a buck, to make a title, to make a headline, to just use that for some gain. But
Too bad we're not smart enough to do that, but
yeah, in relation to what Seth was talking about, though, that's fascinating because if you think about what happened in that event with the people who were there in the room, within like minutes, you saw how clearly people felt, whoa, this is wrong. The moment he slapped him, um, people felt in the room there was like suddenly this quiet. He yelled and he cursed him from, he cursed towards the stage and all that. People understood this is not staged, like something bad is going down right now. And then minutes afterwards, so this is like the signals that Seth was talking about. Everyone feels something wrong just happened, something uneasy and queasy, whatever makes you feel like that.
Yeah, there were accounts of people saying that the air was just sucked out of the room immediately as soon as it happened.
Yeah, and even when you watch the video, you can see that there's like everyone feels squeamish for a second, or I don't know what other word to use, right? But then minutes later, he goes on stage and he cries about being a vessel of love and being a river to my people and all of that, and people give him a standing ovation. And so in relation to what Seth was talking about, you feel reality as one thing, like this bad thing just happened, this is a violent action that happened on stage. But then after a few moments, if everyone around you claps and gives a standing ovation and everyone seems to be fine with that, and
I think you're kind of like you're like,
it's very easy to join in.
Okay, it's like
that automatically trumps the internal.
It does.
Yeah,
it does. And this is something, I'm not judging these people or anything. I'm not that I can sit here and laugh about Hollywood and the whole hypocrisy that is Hollywood for a long time, but I'm not doing that right now. What I'm interested in is that it just shows us, it's a great demonstration of human beings, the social creatures that we are. What happened there in that hall is exactly what social psychology has been looking at in the last 60 or 70 years. The famous Ash experiment where they show people a bunch of lines in
exactly
lengths,
that. Yeah.
And they ask them like what kind of, which line is longer. Clearly you see which line is longer.
Clearly you shouldn't slap a person on stage. Yeah,
exactly, same thing. But if you see all the others saying the shorter line is actually the longer line, then you start agreeing with the others, and you actually, it's not just agreeing, there's levels of distortion that are happening. At first you're just, what's going on here? And then afterwards, it becomes your own perception of reality. We embrace a different perception of reality based on social cues, based on cues from our social environment. And that is fascinating. And it's also powerful if we put it to a different use, if we put it to a purposeful use.
That's the whole game right there, because there's a video also you can look. It's funny on YouTube of a bunch of people. Everyone in the elevator is actors. They're all facing the opposite direction.
Yeah.
And then a person gets in the elevator and he sees everyone facing that direction, so he just also faces that direction just to not feel left out.
Yeah.
So this phenomenon at first might be really kind of scary, right? We saw in Germany how normal people, Bala Salam says in The Last Generation that Nazism is not a German phenomenon. These are normal people. But when that standing ovation time comes, or when everyone's facing the other way in the elevator, when that power of emotion comes over you, you can change completely.
You're not in control.
Right. So when it comes to our next spiritual development, that's more the way that it comes, in this way that we need to convince each other that our good connection is the good future. And that's where this mechanism that's revealing itself in nature, that's where it's used. We're seeing kind of the backside of it, and that's the good side of it.
Wait, but
go ahead, Chris.
No, but I'm just thinking about the antidepressants that he said. I was trying to figure out how to solve that. You brought that up. It's saying that nature sending signals that we're ignoring, and the mass people are ignoring it, so it's easy for me to ignore it. Is that the point you were trying to make there?
There's, I think, 40% of the food. Go ahead, Asaf.
No, I think with the ADHD thing, as an example, again, there's always exceptions, and of course, there are people that maybe that's actually what they need this drug. We're not trying to now be
Sure,
like
sure, sure, sure.
in a medical argument, but to discuss the dynamic here, the inner workings of the phenomenon. Are you solving the problem when you're numbing the system? Are you solving the attention disorder when you are giving the person Ritalin?
Mhm.
If the entire
You know?
system is giving us
Mhm.
this virus, and the
Mhm.
entire system is giving us war, and the entire system is shutting down economies, and the entire system is pushing depression through its cells, it's time to say, whoa, like let's look at this, because most of the food in the
Mhm.
US, 40% of the food in the United States goes to waste, right? Money, plenty of money. There is enough money for everyone. There's enough land for everyone. There's enough water for everyone. There's enough air for everyone. There's enough everything.
Mhm.
The system produces enough of everything for everyone. The problem is just our good connections between us.
Yes, and we're even beginning to see it, and yet we can't get our act together. Basically, the there's a there's a few things here that I'd like to put together into a single picture. Um, you made that in your introduction, Seth. You were talking about the four levels and the difference between the first three levels of nature, still vegetative, animate, and the human level, or as we call it in Kabbalah, the speaking level, right? And there is such a quantum leap there between still vegetative and animate and that human level, that speaking level. We really should spend a few moments just discussing how these forces, these driving forces of nature, work on this level from a Kabbalistic perspective. So just like with a cow that feels like, oh, there's a better grass over there, I should go over there, we too feel pleasure and pain, and we are moved by pleasure and pain. These are like two forces of nature, and this is, if you looked into like the inner programming of a human being, you would see that each and every human being, I don't care who you are, where you're from, if you're a world leader or if you're a farmer, it doesn't matter who and where you are, who you are, what you are. If you're a human being, you have this little accountant in your brain, in the backside of your mind, that's always calculating where is the maximum benefit at minimum cost. More pleasure for less pain, more benefit for less effort. And if you looked through the matrix, or like
Hold on,
the
footnote, just
Yep.
hold the point.
Yep.
And it's not criticized or condemned, actually.
Yes, we're just all like that.
There's
We
no
are
problem with
all
it. That's how we're
all
built.
that's what
I
we
love
are.
the
That's
bookie
who we
example.
are.
I love that
The
example.
bookie.
Because if you really do think about it, you can see how there's like this little thing that's just, put yourself to the side a little bit. You can see it. It's just running all the time.
You can feel it for yourself. Yes. This is also, by the way, where Kabbalah has appreciation for materialistic psychology. Let's call it like that. But Sulam calls it like that. Evolutionary psychology, developmental psychology, social psychology, where it just, examines human behavior, and it basically discovers how that mechanism that we call the bookie works, how it plays out in different situations. But it's not the end. It's not the end all be all. That's not the whole story. In addition to that, there's also something that works unbelievably powerfully in humans, and that is social influence. Social influence can get into our programming and determine the kind of pleasures or pains that we will be drawn to or pushed away from. We can actually convince ourselves that one thing is pleasurable as opposed to another thing. We can actually take the signals that we get from nature, and we can completely distort their meaning.
Wait, so for example, what do you mean signals from nature that we could distort?
Okay, before signals from nature, right? I jumped too fast. So the society determines what we consider pleasurable. That's clear, right? Even to the point that how you taste things, like with your mouth, It
Whiskey.
will literally taste different depending on what society you're in, right? Yeah.
You
Right.
ever been to a restaurant and you like drink some wine and you're like not sure if if this is actually a good taste or bad taste. You're kind of looking at everyone at the table. You're like, is this supposed to be?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, this is great.
And they did that exact experiment, by the way,
Sure.
with the
They
wine.
did an MRI that while they were
Yeah,
in an
they
MRI
put them
machine.
into a brain scanner. They let them drink wine through the tube, and then they look up, and the screen tells
Tube
them what kind
wine.
of wine
Yes.
they're drinking, and they're not really drinking. When they tell them they drink cheap wine that society does not appreciate, in other words, that's the
Right.
meaning of cheap wine, right? And they say that's okay, not that good. They tell them they taste a super expensive wine, and they say it tastes great.
Oh, yeah.
And
That's the
even
stuff.
the neurons in the pleasure centers in their brain
Right.
light up like a Christmas tree, so
Right.
it's not just that I'm saying the wine tastes good because I want to be popular, part of the group. I don't want to rock the boat. I actually feel that it's pleasurable
Right.
more, that it's
I think
tastier.
everybody even has personal examples. If everyone right now just takes a minute, what's one thing I didn't like? Could be beer, alcohol, some kind of food. For me, it was music. I remember I hated like any kind of like heavy metal, like screaming. It made me sick when I was a kid. I got to college. I had this roommate. Everyone liked him. He was tall. He was like whatever. Like, oh, this is my roommate. Cool. I like this guy. I'm driving around with him. He's like blasting, kill switch engage and all this stuff, and at first you feel awkward, but then you be okay, there are things here I can taste that I like, and it's like that became something that I liked, or before it was something that I really was repulsed by. I think everyone has that example. They say, okay, yes, the environment can work on me for sure, against my will even. Yeah.
So back to the Will Smith example just for one second, and then we're done with that. I'm not going to bring it up again, right? So what happened in that room was very much a social psychology experiment. You saw how something was perceived immediately, instinctively in a bad way. Moments later, was perceived in a different way, and then days later, with all the backlash, it's perceived once again in a negative way. So you totally see how we are completely malleable. Our sense of what's right and wrong, good or bad, pleasure or pain, is completely malleable by the engineering of society. And that's where Kabbalah steps in as well. This is where we can use that to enter a different dimension of reality. That's what Kabbalah is all about, really. If we begin to produce such an environment around us that appreciates something that we instinctively don't pay attention to, and that's the quality of human connections between us, the quality of this network of connections that exists between us. We just don't pay attention to it. We're not sensitive to it.
No reason.
We're
to.
not. Yeah, exactly. We're just everyone's focused. The human being is initially focused on, we call it egoistic perception. And again, it's not good or bad, like Seth mentioned. It's just how we operate. I live within my bubble.
It's still vegetative and animate inside of us.
Yes.
Because inside of the speaking degree, which is us, we also have in us the inanimate, the vegetative, and the animate degrees in us. We can see in our nails and our organs and all the other systems inside of us.
And just like those still vegetative and animate levels outside of us, the still vegetative animate levels within us also work according to a program that we can call, evolutionarily speaking, self-survival. That's it. But the human level is capable of living on a higher plane of collective survival, not survival, sorry, collective shared existence, collective reality, collective pleasure. This is something that we don't really understand, but
and no one's even talking about it.
But I think I would just say this, and let's end it there if you want. Right. We get a sense of it when people come together, even if it's for a rock concert, even if it's for some people watch a stupid movie, but they all watch it together and they get excited. The emotions that each of us has are enhanced and are amplified by the power of this collective network that we all share. We are naturally in that network, and we we use it even sometimes subconsciously to enhance our feelings and emotions. But Kabbalists say, let's use it purposefully. Let's use it proactively, intentionally, in order to catapult ourselves to a whole different reality where we actually care for each other, where we experience a reality where it's possible to love each other. Even dare I say, I said the word. Anyway,
Even whenever I think something's funny, it's not. I get so much more enjoyment out of something by sharing it with someone else, and they laugh, and then I laugh when they laugh, and it's like, whoa, that's just like times 10 the amount of like enjoyment I just got from that. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that was interesting. That was an interesting little time that we had. I hope that the audience thought it was entertaining. I think we opened up something interesting. Something else interesting that's happening that maybe some people do know, maybe some people don't know about this chip shortage. Chip, what does that mean? Semiconductors, right? Microchips. It's in everything that you use, basically.
Right.
Right. So there's an issue. It started with Taiwan, where they were basically able to keep up with the demand, and so now we're talking about. I mean, everything that you use, you can get. You want look at the car market right now. It's terrible because there's no chips to put in these new cars. Can't buy new cars, so the used car is going up. A lot of different side effects. Just so your simple day-to-day life could be drastically changed by not having these chips available to you. I'm going to show you something. This is
we don't even think about this normally,
no.
right? It's just,
no.
Unless you're
especially if you were born in.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're born in the 80s, you're already very pampered.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. You're about to say something? Because I'm about to show something. What?
No, go for it. Show us.
All right, let's see if this shows nicely. Let's do a little zoomy. Let's do a little one of these. All right. This,
that's your
guys.
Your folks' old fridge from when you were a child?
Oh, no. This is a next year's model. You don't see?
Really? That's a new fridge?
Yeah. This is going to be the fridge that's available for you to buy next year. This one too. See? You guys know what an ice box is? It's literally a box that just holds a huge ice cube and it keeps your stuff cold. Now, this is actually really well maintained. And what is this? Oh, it's what? 1941 Frigidaire? Oh, these are from 1941. Never mind. What? They didn't have microchips in these, so that means whatever standard that we had before microchips is something that we're going to. Listen, that's a little bit exaggerated. I know that we're probably not going to have, such a I mean, maybe not. I don't know, but that's just something that we could gravitate towards. Such a life where we're really going back many years because we don't have any microchips. I just thought that was interesting to bring that up. Your life could drastically be changed, and then what are you doing? You're suffering, probably. I mean, I would suffer if I didn't have any. Didn't have some high-tech thing to make my life a little bit easier, a car even. But refrigerator, that's one thing, but it's everything. You talked about antidepressants. It's like I might be interested in that if I can't, if I have to suffer that long. What do you mean? What do you think?
Yeah, so these chips, I get what you're saying. The refrigerator, if it just had a thermostat, if the temperature falls below a certain, rises above a certain temperature, the fan kicks on and that's your refrigerator. But today, obviously, our refrigerators have chips in them because they're doing all kinds of different humidity calculations and all kinds of other calculations, and everything is like that. The way we communicate, the way we learn, Zoom, the way we get medical treatment, the MRIs.
It's everywhere, right? It's also like transportation. I guess it's in our cars, probably transportation. It's all over the place.
It's in things that it doesn't even need to be, but because it was so abundant, and now it's just not as abundant anymore. Yeah.
It's actually, it's like, I looked into it a bit. It's like science fiction, what's going on in this whole chip thing. The chips, so you take silicon, which, and
a very refined silicon too, by the way. Yeah. Pure.
The imagine you're stacking different shapes of paper. You're building like a city, Okay, but
Okay.
by stacking different shapes of paper, that's the silicon, and you make networks for the different little resistors and different pieces of ceramic and metal on that uh, those electric circuits on there. But
Okay.
here's something crazy: the slices of silicon that they're layering
Yeah.
are, it's called a nanometer thick. It's a
1
billionth
billionth of it.
of a billionth of a meter.
I
The
can't
slices
comprehend that.
Wow. That
of the
is
yeah.
quite
So
incredible.
they're smaller than a virus, and
Right.
Wow.
the next level of it is that they will be the size of an atom. They can't get smaller than an atom,
Hmm.
but these chips,
Until you
okay,
go to quantum
Right.
I guess
stuff.
quantum, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So you have a huge machine, weighs 100 tons. It shoots laser. So you drop liquid tin, you shoot a 100-ton machine shoots a laser at it. It plasmalizes the the tin, and this is
I
where these
love that
parts for all
technology.
it's
Yeah.
crazy stuff. So I'm not
Lithography.
really a
Yeah.
technology guy, but I looked into it a little bit. So
I
the
don't
thing
know
is,
anything about it, but it sounds
okay,
interesting.
it's
It's
super
crazy.
super it's super super
Crazy.
expensive to do.
Hmm.
It
Yeah, how
takes a
much is one of
couple
those machines? Yeah.
I don't know, but it takes a few $1 billion to set up one of these factories. And the
Mm.
thing is that because technology develops so fast, within a few years, that couple $1 billion factory is obsolete.
Hmm.
So
Oh.
you need to run that factory
Hmm.
all the time in order to make it worthwhile. So there
Right.
used to be like 25 companies who were making these kind of chips. Now there's about 3 companies that are
Mm.
making these kind of chips.
Uh-huh.
So it gets even more, um, the ties of complexity become even deeper because the biggest one, so a quarter of all of the chips in the world are produced on a small island called Taiwan.
Hmm. That I
And
know.
okay, so and China is very interested in um,
As well
controlling
Yes,
it should be.
Taiwan,
we know
As well
that.
it should
taking
be.
over
Right.
Taiwan. So for example, our new F-35 jets, fighter jets, need chips that come from there, from Taiwan.
Sure.
All of our phones get chips
No, well,
from Taiwan.
that just became interestingly absurd because you were talking about how one country needs chips for its weapons, which it might be using to go against the very country that produced the chips to begin with.
So
Hmm.
all the guided missiles, yeah, right. All the guided missiles have chips in them.
Right.
All of the
Right.
weapon systems have chips in them. The majority of these chips are coming from one of these 3 companies in Taiwan. So you can imagine why China would want to um,
Yeah, we
rule
understand.
that. And at the
Yeah.
same time, if the United States is able to prevent China from getting those chips, you could also do a ton of damage to China. Now, other companies, you say, well, why don't we just set up one of those factories, in New Jersey or in
Why don't we?
anywhere? Oh, well, it's you can, and everyone's rushing to do it. It's just like we said, it costs many billions of dollars to set one of these factories up. Once you set the factory up, you got to run it all the time to make your money back, and it's
Mm.
already going to become obsolete as the technology, like we
And it
talked
uses
about, the
so
next.
much water, which is also an issue. Yeah.
Right. So it's very, very difficult. But what we're talking about, though, from this chip shortage, what it's bringing to light again is the total interconnectedness
Yes.
of all of us. And right, but what did you say before? Like, I need you to produce chips for me so that I can go to war against you.
You, yeah, that's the
Right.
wow, that is actually where what we're getting into. Is there already such an example where it actually maybe with the Russia sanctions something?
We
I
saw,
mean,
yeah, of course, we saw the same thing in when the war started. I'm not sure, I haven't been following it, but the United States was buying 20% of its gas and oil from Russia when the war started. So we were giving Ukraine money to fight against Russia, and we're
Mhm.
also sending checks to Russia to fight against Ukraine. So it's constantly like that. And the more these
This
things
is
happen, the more, and again, let's remember, this is not a, this is, you know, you're watching, we're here, this is called the Great Transition. We're talking about what's happening in humanity. There's a lot of other great shows to talk about just the news. We're interested in what are we seeing in front of us, and what
yes.
is the movement, what if, can we zoom out and see the big picture of what's happening. And the big picture of what's happening again and again through all these things aren't accidents. Coronavirus is not an accident that happened. Whether or not it came
Mhm.
out of a lab or whether it came from some bat soup, it's
Mm.
still not an accident. You know, a miracle is not a miracle. A miracle means you just don't understand the law of nature that applied there. And once you understand the law of nature that applied there, it's not a miracle to you anymore. Once we start to understand the system and where nature is moving the system of humanity, which is to an integrated whole harmonious system with all of us. So once you understand that, then all of these things that are taking place take on a different,
Right.
you start to perceive them in a different way.
Yeah.
It's not just some crazy
I
story. It's actually a representation of something much deeper and greater. You know.
yeah, I mean, I don't know too much about those chips and how they're manufactured, and it's quite interesting. But what I am seeing so clearly, um, just how, again, through a Kabbalistic lens, is how this law of interdependence, this natural law, it's a law of nature. All natural systems follow this they're based on the principle of interdependence. Nothing exists in isolation. Everything is interdependent, and this law of interdependence that rules all of nature is beginning to surface right in front of our eyes. It begins to show us that we have to take it into consideration, and that is what I see so clearly even in this chip shortage crisis that is now looming. We're actually seeing that, you know, we've built, I'm sure there's other examples, but this is a really good one because this is a true infrastructure, right? We've just covered, just between us, I'm sure experts on this matter know how to, you know, we'll go into much greater detail on how we've built a whole civilization based on these chips, right? Like everything in our day-to-day life, especially in the Western world, of course, is due to those chips, right? It has to do with everything we do,
All
our
modern
work, our
medicine, all technology,
every,
Zoom, Slack, everything.
it's just it's
Phones,
all,
transportation, airplanes, cars,
yes,
everything.
chips, computer power became processing power became essentially invisible because it's so ubiquitous. It's like how electricity used to be something that, you know, today we don't see it and it's everywhere. You know, you take it for granted that you flick a switch and you have light in your room. We don't think about the fact that everything's wired because and when you see Earth from space, you see this whole network of, you know, all of the lights and the electricity grids and all that. You see it from space because we've electrified the planet so much, but from our perspective we take it for granted. And the same thing's happening with processing power. It's everywhere. It's in everything we create. It's in everything it's responsible for everything we do, right? It's everywhere. And this is why I'm saying it's not chips, it's not processing power, it's the law of, it's the intelligence of nature's deeper system connecting human beings to the point that we can't separate from each other. I understand it's a little bit of a leap, but
No,
try
keep
to
going with
I
it.
don't think
go
it
with me.
is. I don't think it is.
Okay, so all our technology, uh, all our infrastructure, um, think about it like if you looked at ants building a colony, if you looked at what are their, you know, example of the cells in your body, right? Trillions of cells. I think about 70 trillion cells. they've built such an infrastructure and such a system of transportation, communication, digestion, everything is there, right? Now, that is technology. When we talk about a chip shortage in the 21st century, it's not some artificial man-made thing that we've created, and now we may have to go back to 50 to fridges from the from the 80s. We're talking about nature gradually interconnecting all humans to a collective superorganism. And now that we're seeing that we have a crisis in one of these infrastructures, that represents a certain bump in our natural evolution that we need to respond to. And so it's not so much, I don't know if we will have, if we don't have chips in our life, I don't know if that will make our life that much. I mean, of course, we got used to some conveniences that we might not have, but that's not the point. The point is that this law of interdependence is showing itself. It's a signal. It's a signal from nature, just like Seth started the show with. And the question is, how are we relating to it? Are we even noticing that that it's like an indication from our collective network showing us that we have a problem in our connections with each other? We need to somehow solve the way we connect with each other if that network that we built
I think that
is to serve us.
The knee-jerk reaction is just, let's build another plant somewhere, or let's
right, let's get a vaccine.
Let's get a vaccine. Let's again, we're not making political
Right, yeah, sorry. If you want, I don't know.
No, but you're right.
Steal tech, use espionage, steal the technology from these firms who make these things, try and figure out other places to make them. That's a macro version of me taking ibuprofen yesterday morning. That's a macro version of the kid who's got ADHD or the kid who just wants to go outside, or the kid who's full of imagination, the kid who's got inside of him all of the ideas that we need for a future world. He's got them inside of him in his imagination, in his energy, and we're just giving him some drug to numb him. That's a person who's totally depressed, and instead of being able to say, wait, is this working out for me, this life that I'm living? Is this all that my life is meant to be? And just taking some antidepressant in order to be able to manage a horrible existence. This is the same thing. This is like a macro version of the same thing for humanity. We have a big job of trying to explain that, but we can all feel it in our own lives. I mean, we all do something to numb ourselves every single day. I mean, whether it's food or whatever. I mean, it's just part of we just run away from suffering. So it's not judged. It's not praised. It's not condemned. It's how we're wired. It's what we want to do. We want to feel pleasure. The whole wisdom is called the wisdom of Kabbalah, which means the wisdom to receive. Kabbalah means to receive. We only want pleasure. But how do we get to something that's, like you said before, the pleasure, when this whole structure of all of humanity integrates that collective pleasure, that pleasure at a concert, for example, which is tiny compared to what we're talking about, what it means to do it on a spiritual degree above just flesh is huge. And all of these examples that we're seeing, that nature is pushing us and pushing us and pushing us to understand how to connect together correctly, but it's requiring of us to do it consciously. Otherwise, it's going to keep feeling like suffering from behind.
Yes, we are in a time when two things have to come together. One is from this kind of personal perspective. The human being is looking for fulfillment. We're all looking for fulfillment. We're looking to be happy. We're looking for, we have this deep quest for meaning and purpose. Every human being has that. I don't care. It has nothing to do with whether you're religious or secular or this belief system or atheism, or it doesn't matter. If you're a human being, when you were a kid, you asked yourself, what am I doing here? What's going on here? What is this life for? In some way or other, it's there somewhere. Some of us more conscious about it, some of us less, but it's there. That is a signal from nature, a lack, a pain, a need, a drive that nature instills in that human degree of development. That need needs to find its fulfillment. And then there's another thing that's happening in our time, which is that we have to come to terms with our interdependence. We have to reinvent our perception of reality, our mindset about what it is to be human beings connected to each other on a planet as a global species, dealing with global problems, whether it's a global pandemic, whether it's a global climate crisis, whether it's a global chip shortage. That's what we're going to see more and more of our problems just revealing themselves as global. And we have to somehow bring these two things together, man's quest for meaning and purpose and this total interconnection that is becoming a fact of life, that is becoming a fact of reality. Somehow these things need to come together, because the answer to the human being's purpose and meaning lies in that total connection to the whole. That is the thing that's still paradoxical to us. That is what Kabbalah helps solve. But
the way you described it became really clear to me. So in the same way, the same way that we talked about the 4 degrees earlier, that structure of 4 degrees that we have, we call it from here, from below to above. Right? We look at the evolution of our material reality from the Big Bang. It went through billions of years of inanimate development, and eventually, on one small speck somewhere, some vegetation grew.
Yeah,
and then and then it went to the animal degree, and then to the speaking degree. So it's like a hockey stick curve, or whatever you call it, an exponential curve. It took a very long time to go from inanimate to vegetative, a shorter time to go from vegetative to animal, and we climbed down from the, our monkey grandparents a couple 100,000 years ago. It's smaller and smaller and smaller, and now this last phase is only a few thousand years that the spiritual wisdom comes into that's the final part of it. So that structure right there, that 4-phase structure, comes down also from above, from the spiritual root of it. So the way you described it there, you said it seems complex, but it actually became really clear in my eyes when you described it, because we're looking for fulfillment.
Yes.
And the more we connect together, we learn in the wisdom of Kabbalah about something called the soul. And the soul, that's also where
fulfillment lies. The kind of fulfillment that we're looking for, it's not any kind of fulfillment that's going to come directly into my body through my 5 bodily senses. Food's not going to do it. Sex not going to do it. Money, honor, power, whatever these things that I can experience.
Hold on. Again, disclaimer, footnote. Keep all those.
Yeah, no problem.
Still vegetative and animate, right?
It's just not going to solve that need that you have within as a human to find your meaning, purpose, and because that lies in connection to the whole.
So when those creatures begin to connect, it's happening anyway, but we are dealing. We have a lot of suffering because we're resisting it. But if we moved with the system and we start to integrate, so the first degree of that correct connection is called the first degree of the soul. There's also those 4 degrees, or 5 degrees actually, because there's a root level. That's the first degree of the soul, and in that connection between us dwells. Right now, we're in a field of endless light. We're in a field of endless light. Like imagine we're in a field of water falling, but I don't have anything to catch it. But if you have something to hold it, then the water can go in there. So we're in a field of endless light, but you can't eat light with your mouth. You can't see that spiritual light with your eyes. The senses we have, actually, the five senses come from those 4+1 same degrees that we talked about before.
Yeah, our senses are not senses; they're levels of desire. They just
Now you're
appear
getting
to us
complicated.
as physical. Okay, so scratch that. Go back.
So the connection, as we connect more and more in these qualitative levels, we build a structure called a soul. And in that connection between us is where the spiritual light dwells. And
Yes.
in that is where we feel that fulfillment that we're looking for. That is what is propelling us through life, to constantly search for. I wake up in the morning, I have a sexual desire, fine. I wake up in the morning, I have a desire for food, fine. I wake up in the morning, I have a desire for money, fine. These are the still vegetative, inanimate desires. They move me forward, but I also have these other desires in me, like what is the meaning of my life? Why do I always, no matter what I get,
But it sounds like
why
that's
do I always feel empty? And what'd you say, Chris?
Chris?
it sounds like that's nature's problem. I just have this feeling like it's been developing us until now. Why all of a sudden is it like handing us the keys saying, you guys go ahead and finish it off? Because that's basically what you're saying. You're saying it brought us here and we then need to do this. Why do I need to do that?
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, sure.
I don't want to. Sounds like work.
Because it is work. It is work. Now Seth's gonna be mad at me because I'm not
No, I love this part. I love
not describing spiritual development in the most fun way. But
oh yeah, I hate when you go, here's the part that's not fun.
No, I didn't say that.
It's reverse psychology. I'm actually I bet it is fun. Let me hear about it.
Okay. Let's just say this. Nature wants our consciousness. Nature wants our attention. Nature wants a higher level of participation from the human level than it does from the atoms, molecules, plants, and animals. The level of participation required from us is an actual conscious agreement and embracing of the whole that we are part of. That is why, like you said, it's like nature developed humans all the way to this point, and when it comes to our meaning and purpose, it doesn't do that automatically. That's right, it doesn't, because then we would be just like the still vegetative and animate levels, meaning programmed completely with no agency, with no conscious participation, with
okay,
no
fine, but at least tell me what to do.
action. Well, that's also part of it. If we were told exactly what to do by nature, and we would see completely that this is where pleasure lies, greater pleasure than anything else, then you'd be forced by your instinctive nature, egoistic nature, to follow these instructions. Then you'd be programmed again. The whole dilemma of nature's governing force, what we call the creator in Kabbalah, the whole dilemma, so to speak, is how do you create a creature that is on the one hand outside of the whole, so it has a sensation of itself separate from everyone else. That's why we human beings develop to become very individualistic beings, consciously separated from each other. And the more humanity develops, the more individualistic we become, because the ego is growing. That ego is the conscious sense of separation from the whole. That's what we have, and fish and
Yeah, give a
birds,
fish a worm
and
and he's done for the day.
that
That's it. He doesn't need any more.
yeah, and they're even when we see things that seem cruel or violent in nature, it's all just a system that's dynamically balancing itself, maintaining dynamic equilibrium, maintaining homeostasis, sustaining ecosystems. That's what nature's doing, keeping this balance that allows for the creation of the next level of life. We are the most advanced level of life, and we are also part of the program, but we need to consciously maintain the balance rather than instinctively.
But
That's the whole difference. Yeah, but say it, because I feel like I didn't cover the whole.
No, that
thing
was
here.
good. Maybe let me just think about how to say this. It feels like, on one hand, you're talking to me on something that I need to do, because at the end of the day, I'm taking care of me. I'm worried about
Okay.
how I'm being fulfilled. On the other hand,
As we
it's-
all do, yeah.
right, and on the other hand, it's like humanity as a whole.
Yeah, we have to discover it's the same thing.
Oh,
We have to discover it's the same thing, because ultimately what Seth said a couple of minutes ago, it's we are one consciousness, one vessel, Kabbalists call it, that was shattered. We are one thing. All of us are one thing, not just humans, including all the molecules and minerals and plants and animals. We are all one thing called creation, or the collective kli, or the collective vessel, or the collective soul, or the one created being that was created, the one will to receive that was created, that has 4 levels, but it's one. It's one thing. The animals, the planets, the vegetation, the bacteria, the molecules, they're all parts of us. We are investigating ourselves. We are looking at ourselves spilled outside of us as if it's outside of us, but it's not. It's all one vessel that is us, and we are exploring. You are the whole of humanity and the whole of reality, but this is very, very far from where we are today. So we have to get there gradually. We have to, bit by bit, glue the pieces together. We have to start with each other, with humans, the other bits of shattered consciousness that are consciously participating in the process. We
right, because I
have
feel
to
closer
start
with my
each
dog
other.
sometimes. Sometimes I feel like, oh yeah, nature and my dog, it loves me. I love, and then you put a human in front of me, and it's it seems like the
Mhm.
farthest away from me.
And that's exactly why that's where we have to start. With our connection to the rest of nature will come instinctively when we connect with each other. We will immediately see it as part of us. If human beings begin to sense their interdependence, forget the chip problem. Not only we first of all, we can, on this world, we can unlock technologies and infrastructure that we can't even imagine.
We're
right
already
now.
trying to mimic nature. Instead of just mimicking nature, just become part of it, and then you can just create whatever you want out of that mind of nature that you've entered into.
But beyond technology, when we begin to sense the wholeness of nature, and we will feel part of this natural system, that it's all us, it's all our vessel, it's all our kli, our self. We are, the whole world is ours. When we begin to feel that, you're not even going to have a climate problem, or the whole need for a recycle and be green and all that will just go out the window. There's not going to be even any need for that. Which is, by the way, a war that you can never win within the egoistic framework. We have to develop connection and inner connection to the whole, to nature's system. We can only do that by connecting to each other first. That's the way in which we build our connection to the whole, starting from each other.
Got a lot of work to
Friends,
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am so lucky and fortunate to have friends like you. So thank you
As are
for
we.
Yep.
for being here together.
Yep.
Thanks everybody for joining us. That was an amazing hour. That was you
What?
totally
That flew
inspired
by.
me. It made me
Yeah.
think, and I feel very optimistic.
That was a fascinating conversation. Thank you all for being with us.
Thanks,
I also
everybody,
want to
for-
say that I did look. I glimpsed at the chat here and there, and there were some really good stuff. I think that we will be probably taking the advice that some of you left in comments and chat since the last Q&A we did, and we'll probably do more of these Q&As where we kind of go into the chats and the comments of last few shows, because we know there were some good stuff there, and we'll bring that into a special episode, maybe once a month, once in 2 months, something like that. We talked about it, and it's definitely worthwhile, so I just wanted to say that.
Cool.
Okay,
All right.
Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern. Bye,
2 p.m.
everybody.
Eastern Thursday. Bye, everybody.
Say, man, it's here the nation, man. You know, we coming here with wrecking big respect to the creator and all the people of the planet. You dig?
Oh, ada people that.
Fall in love of the world, to be one with them, to reach the light with no end, bringing contentment to him through the love of friends. Let connection begin. For the love of the world, to be one with them, to reach the light with no end, bringing contentment to him through the love of friends. Let correction begin. For the love of the friends, yeah. Lift me up, you the ones I depend on. For the love of the friends, yeah. We in this together, one with no end, yeah. Deliver us from evil, bring us in bestow. The spirit of the metropolis can take control. For the love of the friends, like the sages foresaw. We the nation, one man and one soul. All my friends are warriors, they sacred against the evil inclination. Holy dedication, self-examination. One man, one soul, yeah. We the nation of the world, to be one with them, to reach the light with no end, bringing contentment to him through the love of friends. Let connection begin.
Your introduction is really